Welcome to the Storyteller Conversations, where we deep dive into the world of storytelling. Our guest today is Chris Manchester, former Chief Creative Officer and partner at Sidley, with a career marked by major international awards, including One Show Pencils, Cannes Lions, and the Marketing Awards. Christian has worked with top tier clients like Adidas, Red Bull, and Cirque du Soleil. His creative genius has played a crucial role in launching the Red Bull brand in Canada and developing powerful global campaigns for Adidas, North Face, etc. Chris, it's an honor to have you here today. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So, Christian, you've had such an incredible career in branding. Can you tell us about the moment when you realized the power of storytelling in building a brand platform?
So, when I started to realize storytelling, how impactful storytelling was, obviously my background is design. I had my own design and digital company. We were very into sort of branding, but probably in a more cultural way versus big commercial way. And when I sold my company to Sidley, I sort of shifted from a digital design mindset to a more storyteller mindset. And you realize to sort of create bigger platforms, you need to hold the client's hand along the way, and having the right insights, the right story that kind of explain why you made certain decisions in the design process goes a long way to create better work with your client in partnership.
And you talked about Sidley, so you were responsible for some obviously game-changing campaigns for brands like Adidas. How did you merge the concepts of branding and storytelling to craft something unique?
I think that's probably my background was design, and obviously after that, we were doing a lot of experiential. We learned a lot from Cirque du Soleil, from making coming up with a show is quite something as a process, and launching Red Bull. We were very early into the experience economy back in the day. So when you launch a brand platform, you think about all those things that are not just typical traditional communication tools. You're actually already thinking of that famous 360 wheel that we've been talking about for so long. Well, we were early adopters of that.
Yeah, so for sure, the process is something very important. Can you walk us through that process when you begin working with a new brand? How do you start from scratch and create something big and creates strong brand platforms?
Well, you would think when you see Sidley's work, it's very artful, but there were some great strategists behind a lot of the work. And we were lucky enough to have great partnerships where creative and strategy would sort of dig in and look for insights. And those could be, the audience, human truths. It could be obviously really understanding the landscape and understanding the categories. So I think based on those insights, it really gave us the power and the leverage to unroll the craziest ideas possible because they had a strategic backing.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that you were at Sidley for like 25 years. Is that true?
Almost 23 years. Yeah. So
Okay.
a big chunk of my life.
Yeah. So, in your experience, what was the most important element for a brand's narrative? How do you ensure that every touch point aligns with your story or the story of the clients, actually?
Well, I think it's respecting each touch point and obviously bringing in the right experts. And sometimes that can be overwhelming because you need 20 people around the table. And to be super transparent, at the beginning, we were a little more inexperienced and we'd throw everybody at the table and it was chaotic and that was okay. There was a bit of science in the madness. But with time, you understand how to sort of ebb and flow with your teams. You make sure that everybody's there at the beginning so they feel that they have ownership when you brief in the project. And sometimes some people will disappear and go off on their own, and they'll come back. And so what you do, what that creates is, accountability and ownership for all those touch points and this idea of a shared vision for the platform itself.
Okay, let's talk about creativity. How do you balance creativity with the need for a brand to stay true to its value and business objectives?
I think one goes with the other. It's not either or. It always starts with what business problem are we trying to solve? And that usually gets us really immediately into their audience and understanding what that relationship is with the audience. And then once you've figured out the sandbox you can play in, the tighter the brief, the better, because then you can really play off the edges and go as far as you want, creatively speaking.
Let's go further in the reflection and maybe think about the mistakes. What would you say is the biggest mistake brands make when they try to tell their stories, and how can they avoid it?
I think one of the biggest mistakes is brands talking to themselves in the sense that a lot of people want to please their bosses and please specific stakeholders that aren't actually their audience. And what that does is that it creates a message that's a little muddled and is really not crafted for the audience that they're supposed to craft for. So I think it's about really listening and, hey, do research and get the data that you need to understand what your audience is. What are their aspirations? What
Mhm.
are their emotions? How are they feeling? And really try to connect to those conversations that are happening.
So being engaged and connected.
Yeah, just listening, listening and reacting, sometimes in a deep way, but sometimes every day in small ways as well.
So, how did you incorporate their core messages into this engaging and try to be connected with their audiences?
Well, I can maybe take the example when we created the platform for Adidas, where they were telling so many different stories to all their different categories, and we came up with the concept all in, and all in was based
Mm.
on a shared passion of, a passion for the sport, passion for the lifestyle, and even a passion of togetherness, which, some other competitive brands were not
Yeah.
celebrating. So that was a unique point of view. And it was really a rallying cry internally. And
Hmm.
so it started off as an internal movement
Yeah.
that actually managed to sort of, when you have a strong internal movement, it's a lot easier to create an external one as well.
Okay. One last question. Can you share an example where a brand platform you created had an unexpected impact, either positive or negative? And if it's negative, how did you handle it?
I'd love to give you all the juicy details of a negative story, but unfortunately, most of mine are positive. This one, is the story of North Face, and it's wild because it came from a brief about trying to connect with the climbing community, and we came up with this idea for walls are meant for climbing, based on the context of those times. This is back in 2016, where there's a lot of talks of walls. And so this, what was pitched as a t-shirt idea, just a graphic, the t-shirt test is a really good test to do, but it became a program and a platform and a system where, we invited people around the world to climb, and they created the official climbing day. Even the way that we created the t-shirt, the font, we used the Helvetica font that was in the back of the jacket,
Oh,
and we locked it up, and it actually became their brand platform for the next 5 years. So, it's amazing how sometimes just one little T-shirt can create so much, leg,
hmm. And
space.
impact.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. Chris, thank you so much for sharing your insight with us today. Your experience in merging branding and storytelling to create impactful platforms is truly inspiring. It's been a pleasure having you here among us. So, thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Mehdi. Honored to be here.